Hello students, welcome back to your channel EdTech Guruji. The series we are doing is Vigyan Ka Gyan, and the topic today we are going to deal with is gravitation. This is from standard 10th state board. This lecture can also be viewed by students from CBSE and ICSE board of class 9th and 10th standard. The subtopic what we are going to cover today is Kepler's laws. Okay, so we are going to deal with the three laws which was given by Kepler, and these are very important to be understood because this only helped Newton also to derive or to formulate its Newton's law of gravitation, which we have discussed in the previous part. So this is part 3. I hope you have seen part 1 and part 2. The link is given in the description for ease of access. If not, please have a look on the first two parts and then view this particular lecture. So students, without any further delay, let us begin with today's session. Before we actually understand about Kepler's laws, we need to understand a mathematical concept. Basically, it is about a shape. Okay, now that shape is called as ellipse. So we will first understand what is ellipse. Students, before I teach you a few things about ellipse, tell me what is this shape. Yes students, this is a circle. This is a circle. Now we have studied about circle. Okay, we know that circle has infinite bends. Okay, it has no start, no end, it has no sides, etc, etc. Now we know what is the center of a circle. Let us say this is the center. What is the center of a circle is defined as? Center of the circle is defined as the point which is equidistant from all the points on its periphery. So on this particular periphery, if there is any point, this center is going to be equidistant, and that particular distance is also called as its radius. Yes students, this is called as its radius and is denoted by small r. So what is small r? Small r is radius of the circle. Okay, and double of it, or I can say this line. Okay, double of it is called as its diameter. Let us denote diameter with d. So what is d denotes? D denotes its diameter, right? Okay, now what will happen if I'll apply the force on this circle from top and bottom? It will get squeezed a little bit. All right, so this is the forces which we are applying on this circle. So what will happen? It will end up getting a little bit squeezed, and the shape what I'm going to get is something like this. Now students, this is what is called as a ellipse. This shape, okay, is what is called as ellipse. Okay, let us understand about ellipse a little bit more. Okay, let us say here I am looking at the face of a cone. Okay, so a cone, normal ice cream cone. Okay, अगर हम उसको ऊपर से देख रहे हैं, ठीक है, so we are viewing it from the top. Okay, so if we are having a top view, this is what we see. Okay, the face of the cone. If I hold it vertically, I get this kind of a shape. So this is a cone. Okay, it is called as right angled circular cone. Okay, so this particular cone, if you see, will give us an ellipse. Now question is how? You see here the face, here this face is a circle. Here this is a circle. Here we are getting a circle. Okay, if I cut this particular cone flat, okay, straight at any point, okay, what am I going to get? I'm going to get a smaller circle. As I'm going towards the the bottom of it, okay, it is tapering, cone is tapering, of course, right? So I am going to get a smaller circle, but I'm going to get a circle. So here also I am getting a circle. But instead, if I cut the cone obliquely, okay, and not straight, I am going to cut it obliquely, then students, the shape what I am going to get is a ellipse. So here this particular shape, students, is what is I am getting is a ellipse. So can I say an ellipse is formed from a section of a cone? Remember this statement. Later on you will study something called as conic section in mathematics, where you will study this in detail. Okay, but for now understand this is what is an ellipse. So an ellipse is formed when you cut the cone obliquely. Okay, now our understanding of the shape is now a little bit better. So let us now understand few more key important aspects of an ellipse. Okay, let us see. So this is how an ellipse looks like. Okay, now here I am drawing the two axes which I required. Okay, here this is a longer one, of course, if you see. Okay, so this longer axis I will name it as major axis, and here this one is a smaller one. Okay, this is, I'm going to call it as a minor axis. Okay, I'll call it as minor axis. So an ellipse has two axes. Okay, major and minor. It has two axes, major and minor. The longer one will always be the major and the smaller one will always be the minor. Now you see the midpoint of these two axes where they are intersecting each other. This point is what is called as a center of the ellipse. So how would you define a center of the ellipse? The center of an ellipse is the midpoint of both the major and the minor axis. Of course, both the axes at the center are perpendicular to each other. Okay. Now, here are the 2 points which are very important. These 2 points are called as foci. Okay. So this is, let us say, F1 and F2. Okay, F1 and F2. So it has 2 focus. Okay, and the plural of focus is foci. Okay, it is called as foci. Okay, so it has 2 focuses. Now, guys, please pay attention to these concepts, very important. Now, if I talk about the distance, okay, let us say this distance. This is the distance of one end, okay, to the center. Okay, can I say this is half of the major axis? Half of the major axis. This half of the major axis is what is called as A. Okay, half of the major axis is given by the variable A. Likewise, this is half of the minor axis. This half of the minor axis is given as B. Now, there is one more thing. The distance between the center and its one of the focus. Okay, any of the focus, it doesn't matter. Okay, all are equidistant. This is given as C. A, B and C are 3 important things in an ellipse. Okay, what is A? A is called semi-major axis. This is half of the major axis. Okay, this is half of the major axis. So it is called as semi-major axis. Likewise, what is B? B is half of the minor axis. So this is called as semi-minor axis. Okay, semi-major axis is given by variable A, small a. Semi-minor axis is given by small b, and the distance between the center and any of its focus, let it be F1 or F2, doesn't matter, is given as C. Okay. Now, if semi-major axis is A and semi-minor axis is B, then students, the major axis length, okay, the major axis length will be given as 2A, and this is very important. Likewise, the minor axis length will be given as 2B. Are you getting it? And the distance between two focus will be given as 2C. Are you getting all these things? Length I am talking about. Okay. Now, this 2A is very important. So, the ellipse which we are studying are known by few important things. Number 1 is its foci, okay, and number 2 is the distance. The distance is given as 2A. Why is this important? We will just discuss in some time, okay, but this is a very important thing for an ellipse. The third thing I will just tell you in the next slide. So I hope this much is clear to us. What is the minor axis, what is the major axis, what is called as semi-major, semi-minor, how it is represented, what is the distance between the center and the focus. All these things are now very clear to us, right? So moving ahead, let us see. The important thing what I said was a foci and was this distance 2A. Why is this distance important? See, like we defined a circle center, a circle's center is a point which is equidistant from all the points on its periphery. Likewise, if I take a point on the periphery of an ellipse, okay, if I take a point on the periphery of an ellipse, if I will take the point on the periphery of the ellipse, we will get the distance of that point from the two focuses. Okay, here you have F1 and here you have F2. Let us understand a little bit here, okay, before we get to that point. You see these points here, these two ends, okay, these are called as vertex. Together they are called as vertices, okay. So this is vertex, this is also vertex, okay. Now, If I will say coordinate the position of this point on a particular plane, what will this be? Okay, so this was semi-major axis, which was A. Okay, so its y coordinate is 0, so this will be given as A comma 0. Likewise, the vertex on the other side will be given as minus A comma 0, right? If you have a little bit of understanding about the Cartesian plane, you will understand that, and I'm sure that in 10th standard you know what a Cartesian plane is all about. In 9th standard also we have studied a Cartesian plane in the chapter of optics. Okay, so this is my center O. Okay, F1 and F2 coordinates. The center of the ellipse will be given with the coordinates 0 comma 0. Vertex is A0 and minus A0. Focus will be given as C comma 0. The other side will be given as minus C comma 0. Now these 2 points, so here these 2 points on the minor axis, this is called as co-vertex. Okay, so here you have a co-vertex. What will be the coordinate of co-vertex? It will be 0 comma B, and this will be 0 comma minus B. Okay, so these are the few important things what we need to always keep in mind whenever it comes to a ellipse. Now coming back to the point, what we were discussing about a point on its periphery, right? Okay, so let us take a point P1 on its periphery. Let us say here it is P1. Okay, this is F1, this is F2. So certainly there will be some distance of P1 from F1 and F2. Let the distance of P1 from F2 be this, which can be written as P1 F2, and from the other side with respect to F1 it can be written as P1 F1. So the total distance in this case will be given as P1 F1 plus P1 F2. This will be some value. Likewise, if there is another point on the periphery, let us say this is point P2. Okay, so here is its distance from F2, which will be given as P2 F2, and this is the distance of P2 from F1, which will be given as P2 F1. In this case, the sum of the distances will be given as P2 F1 plus P2 F2. Again, this will be some value. Okay, so basically if we are going to calculate this value and this value, the sum, okay, in both the cases, in fact if we take any other point on the periphery, the sum of that point from the first and the second focus will always be same, constant, that is going to be equal to 2a. Okay, it will be always be 2a. So this is the third important point with respect to ellipse. Okay, so this was the third point. The other two are that it has two focus, what we call it as foci, and the length of the major axis is always 2a, or you can also say this as the distance between the two vertices of the ellipse, okay, is 2a. And why is this important is because if you take any point on the periphery of an ellipse and you calculate the sum of the distance of that point with respect to first and the second foci, okay, it will always be equal to 2a. So you can define an ellipse now. Okay, so what is its definition? An ellipse is a plane curve such that the sums of the distances of each point in its periphery from the fixed points, the foci, are equal. It is a conic section formed by the intersection of a right circular cone by a plane that cuts the axis and the surface of the cone obliquely. So I hope that this definition is clear to you and you have understood all the major points with regards to ellipse. Let us move ahead. So moving ahead, let us say this is our space and here is the sun. And here are we on the earth. Now Kepler's law, the first law of Kepler, states that the orbit of the planet is always elliptical. So here you have the elliptical orbit on which the earth is revolving around the sun. It is not circular, it is an ellipse. The orbit of the planet is elliptical. This is what is the major thing which is given as first law of Kepler. Is this clear to you? So likewise we have earth here and moon is revolving around the earth. Again, it is going around, okay, in an elliptical orbit. So this is the first law given by Kepler. Kepler's first law states that the orbit of a planet is an ellipse with the sun at one of the foci. Okay, so either the sun is here or the sun is on the other focus. So here we have kept it, let us say we have kept it on F1. Is this clear? Is the first law clear? Right? So moving on to the next one, okay, let us say here is the sun and here is the earth. Of course, the earth is moving in an elliptical orbit, okay. Now, what is the second law? Very, very important to understand, okay. What is the second law? So, let us say when earth is revolving around the sun, after every certain amount of time, it is sweeping a particular area. It is sweeping a particular area. Let us say that the earth was here, okay, and after time t1, earth comes here. Let me join the first and the second position of the earth with the sun. So here it is. Now the line joining the planet from the sun is sweeping a particular area in time t1. This is that area. We will call this area as A1 for now. Likewise, we study two different points. After some time, earth, let us say, reaches here. Okay, again we start counting on the time, and let us say this time in t2 seconds or minutes or hours or years, whatever you want to take it as, months, days, whatever time, okay, it comes here. Okay, it comes here. So again I will join the two positions with the sun. Again we see that it has swept a particular area. The line joining the planet and the sun has swept some area. We will call this area as A2. Likewise, this is one of the positions, and after time t3 it comes here. We join it and we see this is the area which is swept. We call this area as A3. Okay. Now what is Kepler's second law? Here, if I put a condition, if T1 is equal to T2 is equal to T3, that means I have given equal amount of time. T1 is equal to T2 is equal to T3, let us say it is equal to T. Then the area swept by the line joining the planet and the sun will also be the same. Matlab A1 will be equal to A2 will be equal to A3 will be equal to A in that case. So this is Kepler's second law. Kepler's second law states that the line joining the planet and the sun sweeps equal areas in equal intervals of time. So if T1 is equal to T2 is equal to T3, then the area A1 will be equal to A2 will be equal to A3. So I hope the second law given by Kepler is also very, very clear to us. Moving on to the third law. We all know that for one revolution, Earth takes about 365 days and 1/4 day, which we count and celebrate as a leap year. But for now, let us keep it 365 days. So this is how it covers one full revolution. Okay. Now, the time taken by any object to complete its one revolution, okay, or one oscillation or one vibration is given as time period, and we denote it with capital T. Okay, so what is T denoting here? T is denoting its time period of revolution. The moment I am using the word time period, again we have studied this in 9th standard when we were talking about waves in the chapter of sound. Okay, time period is something which we have studied. It is given as capital T. So here I am writing time period of revolution. That means time taken by the planet to complete its one revolution. Okay, and let us say that R is the mean distance. Okay, R is the mean distance of the planet from the sun. In this case, Kepler's third law states that the square of the period of revolution is directly proportional to the cube of its mean difference. Okay, so what is the third law given by Kepler? The square of its period of revolution around the sun is directly proportional to the cube of the mean distance of a planet from the sun. This also means that t square upon r cube is equal to constant. Okay, so this is, students, third law of Kepler. So I hope that all the three laws of Kepler are clear to us, and also we are very clear with what is an ellipse. Okay, so in the next class, students, we are going to deal with the proof of centripetal force and the proof of inverse square law. So dear students, till then, take care, stay tuned to the channel, like the video, subscribe and share the channel if not already with all your friends and ask them to do the same. This is your EdTech Guru signing off. Happy learning.